G'day, it's fugitive Australian journalist Shane Drumgold from the website kangaroocourtofaustralia.com. Now, the former ACT Director of Public Prosecutions, Shane Drumgold, has instituted proceedings in the ACT Supreme Court against the ACT government. His ultimate goal is to obviously have the ACT inquiry report by Walter Sofronoff set aside, and I'll read you out what the report says on the Guardian website. The outgoing ACT Director of Public Prosecutions, Shane Drumgold, has alleged the Sofronoff inquiry failed to give him a fair hearing, denied him natural justice, breached the law, and gave rise to a reasonable apprehension of bias. On Tuesday, the ACT government revealed that Drumgold was mounting an application for judicial review of the damning findings made about his conduct by Walter Sofronoff KC during his inquiry into the prosecution of Bruce Lerman. Court documents filed with the ACT Supreme Court show Drumgold's challenge will request the Sofronoff report be quashed entirely or declared invalid and of no effect. Alternatively, Drumgold seeks to have the findings made against him specifically quashed or declared invalid. He is also seeking to restrain the ACT's Attorney General Shane Rattenbury from taking any action against him on the basis of the report. Drumgold argues that individuals working on the inquiry failed to comply with rules prohibiting the disclosure of information, which obviously relates to the leaking of the report and also the staff communicating with journalists throughout the inquiry. He also alleges the inquiry failed to accord the plaintiff natural justice and that the member for the first defendant gave rise to a reasonable apprehension of bias. Drumgold's case has been listed in the ACT Supreme Court for 14th of September. Now, that'll obviously just be a directions hearing. Now, I can tell you there's going to be a lot of people very, very worried because who is Shane Drumgold going to subpoena? What documents will he subpoena? Will he subpoena phone records? What witnesses will he subpoena? Will Walter Sofronoff be forced to give evidence under oath at the inquiry? Would Walter Sofronoff refuse to answer questions on the grounds that he might incriminate himself because he's facing up to 6 months jail? That's what I wrote in relation to Walter Sofronoff in an article I published on August the 6th. The leaking of the report by Walter Sofronoff was a criminal offence under Section 17 of the ACT Inquiries Act 1991. Non-disclosure of information by members, etc. A person who is or has been a member of the staff or of the board, or a lawyer assisting the board must not produce to any person or permit any person to have access to a document provided for this act, which is punishable up to 6 months jail. Now, that obviously covers the inquiry report, which Walter Sofronoff leaked to the media, which he's admitted doing so. So if he was subpoenaed to give evidence for Shane Drumgold's hearing, to have the Sofronoff report set aside, would Walter Sofronoff refuse to answer questions on the grounds he might incriminate himself? Now, that'd be a hell of a laugh. But there's going to be a hell of a lot of people worried, like Jeanette Albertson. She's an Australian journalist who was Walter Sofronoff leaked the report to. Initial report said Walter Sofronoff leaked the report to select journalists, which makes it sound like there was a number of journalists who he leaked the report to by saying select journalists will leak the report. Well, there was no select journalist. It was Jeanette Albertson, and that's it. And a few days later, apparently he leaked it to the one ABC journalist as well. So there's been different reports about different scenarios. Initially he leaked it to Select Media. Then it turned out he had only leaked it to Jeanette Albertson. And exactly when he leaked it to her is a huge question mark too, because some have implied that Jeanette Albertson was quoting from the report up to 2 or 3 weeks before the report was handed to the government. So she was either given the report early, 2 or 3 weeks before it was given to the government, ACT government, or maybe she was given a draft copy by Walter Sofronoff. So there's a lot of questions that are going to be answered in Shane Drumgold's court proceedings, and he could subpoena phone records from, say, Jeanette Albertson or all the journalists. And also, I'll read you out this section again. This is very important. Drumgold argues that individuals working on the inquiry failed to comply with rules prohibiting the disclosure of information. So that potentially covers other barristers and the counsel assisting who were helping Walter Sofronoff. They were also apparently conversing with the media during the course of the proceedings. course of inquiry. So they might be subpoenaed to give evidence. Their phone records might be subpoenaed. Jeanette Albertson, her phone records might be subpoenaed. Samantha Maiden, I asked her on Twitter. She was mouthing off about how often she talks to Brittany Higgins and when she speaks to her, etc. So I asked her, well, how often have you spoken to Walter Sofronoff? And she refused to answer. So other media might be subpoenaed to give evidence, and their phone records might be subpoenaed to show how often they're ringing Walter Sofronoff and other staff. So there's going to be a whole heap of people extremely worried exactly what strategy Shane Drumgold will take in relation to the matter. And not only is there a lot of people worried, if Shane Drumgold gets a judgment in his favour, well, will it lead to further proceedings? Will he then go for damages to his reputation? Can he potentially sue the Australian and Jeanette Albertson? Apparently, because the report was leaked to them and she started publishing on that leaked report, it's not covered as far as defamation is concerned. And if Walter Sofronoff's judgment is set aside, well, she could be up and the Australian could be up for defamation proceedings too. Anyhow, if you want some of the background information, go to my website, Kangaroo Court of Australia. You'll see a number of articles published on the 6th of August, the 7th, and I think one or two before that. And that'll have a lot of the background information. And I'll put a link below this video on YouTube in the description box to one of those articles with a lot of the background information. Kangaroo Court of Australia, independent media. I publish a website, YouTube channel, Facebook page, and Twitter account. And I'm 100% crowdfunded from viewers like yourself. And I currently have 319 patrons donating $2,051 a month, and I really need to double that to become financially viable. So please support my Patreon account. You can donate any amount, $3, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30, $40, $50 a month, whatever suits your budget. And there's a link below this video on YouTube to the Patreon account, or you can visit my website, Kangaroo Court of Australia, and there's a link there. And please share this video on Facebook and Twitter, etc. Thank you for your time and have a good day.